Question 1. The contemporary view of home inspector liability emphasizes transparency and informed consent. Mr. Caldwell, a certified inspector, is preparing to inspect a 100-year-old Victorian house for a first-time homebuyer. The buyer is enthusiastic but unaware of potential inspection limitations, especially regarding inaccessible areas like crawl spaces or sealed chimneys. Mr. Caldwell considers skipping the discussion of limitations to avoid overwhelming the buyer. What is the most appropriate action for Mr. Caldwell to take? A. Conduct the inspection and disclose limitations only if issues arise. B. Use vague language in the agreement to protect against future disputes. C. Thoroughly explain all inspection limitations in the pre-inspection agreement. D. Advise the client to waive the agreement since they appear unconcerned. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Home inspectors must clearly outline limitations in the pre-inspection agreement. ASHI-SOP Section 2. Transparency reduces liability and ensures informed client decisions. Avoiding or downplaying this step, even with enthusiastic clients, is unethical and could lead to legal disputes. Courts often reject vague disclaimers or failure to communicate risks. See Interstate Home Inspections v. Jones 2020. Clients cannot waive protections unknowingly. Question 2. Upon closer examination, a home inspector finds an asphalt shingle roof with uneven wear patterns, curling shingles, and moss growth. Ventilation appears insufficient and the attic is unusually warm and moist. What is the most likely underlying issue contributing to premature roof deterioration? A. Flashing failure near the chimney. B. Inadequate attic ventilation causing heat and moisture buildup. C. Improper slope causing water pooling. D. Overuse of roof cement during prior repairs. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Improper ventilation leads to heat and moisture retention in the attic, which damages shingles from beneath. According to the International Residential Code RR, proper ventilation is critical for roof longevity. Flashing or pitch issues cause leaks, but not widespread wear. Excessive moss is often a symptom, not the cause. Heat buildup accelerates aging of asphalt materials. Question 3. While examining a utility room, Inspector Lewis notices that the gas water heater lacks a temperature and pressure relief valve (TPR) discharge pipe. The client asks if this is a serious issue. What should Inspector Lewis explain? A. This is optional for older models. B. It is acceptable if the tank is rarely used. C. This is a serious safety hazard that must be corrected. D. A missing pipe is only a cosmetic concern. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The TPR discharge pipe is critical to prevent tank explosions due to excess pressure or heat. Its absence is a major safety hazard. URCA P80361. The pipe must discharge within 6 inches of the floor and terminate in a safe location. Failure to report this violates inspection standards and professional conduct expectations under ASH-INTERNACHI. Question 4. From multiple perspectives, horizontal cracking in a basement's concrete block foundation accompanied by inward bulging raises concerns. Inspector Patel suspects hydrostatic pressure. Which of the following should be included in his report? A. Advise cosmetic repairs such as patching. B. Recommend immediate consultation with a structural engineer. C. Suggest regrading only and monitor annually. D. State that the foundation appears typical for its age. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Horizontal cracks with bulging indicate structural stress due to water, pressure, or soil movement and are red flags for failure. Per ASHI-SOP Section 4.1, inspectors must report significant issues and recommend further evaluation. Cosmetic repairs are insufficient and can conceal ongoing movement. Liability may arise if the issue is downplayed. Question 5. To determine whether combustion appliances are functioning safely, Inspector Gomez tests carbon monoxide levels near a gas furnace. The levels are elevated despite visible blue flames. What does this suggest? A. The furnace is operating normally. B. There may be incomplete combustion and poor venting. C. The blue flame ensures no CO is produced. D. Carbon monoxide alarms should not be relied on for testing. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Even blue flames can conceal incomplete combustion. Elevated CO suggests a malfunction or venting issue. According to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission and the EPA any level above 9 ppm indoors is concerning. Home inspectors must report suspected co-hazards and advise prompt servicing per ASHI Code of Ethics. Question 6. In the absence of visible cracks, Inspector Angela notes ponding water and reverse grading around the home's perimeter. What should she recommend to the client? A. Since there are no cracks, no concern is warranted. B. Recommend regrading to slope soil away from the foundation. C. Install gutters only if flooding occurs. D. Monitor the area seasonally without immediate action. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Proper grading directs water away from the foundation to prevent structural damage and moisture intrusion near R.3 requires. A 6-inch slope over 10 feet, even without visible cracks. Poor grading can compromise foundations over time. Waiting for cracks or flooding before acting exposes homeowners to risk and potential costly repairs. Question 7. The fundamental question is whether Inspector Mehta breached his duty by failing to report a missing handrail on steep stairs, which later caused injury. The inspection report stated, stairs appear generally functional. How might liability be assessed? A. Inspector is not liable if injury occurred after inspection. B. Inspector met minimum reporting standards. C. Inspector may be liable for omitting clear safety hazard. D. No liability since client accepted the report. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Inspectors must report safety hazards, especially those violating Code DR R1178, handrails required on stairs with 4+ risers. Courts have held inspectors liable for failing to disclose hazards. E.g. Thomas v. Elite Inspections 2017. Even vague language like generally functional may not shield against negligence if omissions are obvious. Question 8. Throughout the course of a panel inspection, Inspector Daniel observes double-tap breakers and mixed aluminum and copper wiring under the same terminal. Weighs the correct course of action. A. Recommend a licensed electrician evaluate the panel. B. Ignore it if the panel shows no signs of overheating. C. Replace only the aluminum wires immediately. D. Tighten the connections and close the panel. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Double tapping can lead to overheating if breakers aren't rated for 2 wires. Mixing aluminum and copper can cause galvanic corrosion without proper connectors. NEC 110.14 requires compatibility in terminations. Only a licensed electrician should evaluate and correct such potentially hazardous installations. Ignoring them may pose fire risks. Question 9. As evidenced by stained drywall, musty odor, and warped baseboards, Inspector Jordan suspects mold in a poorly ventilated bathroom. The client insists it's just age-related wear. What should Inspector Jordan do? A. Suggest painting over the area. B. Confirm mold presence through lab testing. C. Report suspected mold and recommend further evaluation. D. Accept client's assessment and exclude from the report. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Inspectors must report visible signs of potential mold and recommend further evaluation. EPA Guidance and ASHI SOP Section 9. Testing is outside scope unless separately certified. Mold can cause serious health and structural issues. Suggesting cosmetic fixes violates ethical standards and may increase inspector liability. Question 10. Given the circumstances of a newly remodeled kitchen, Inspector Lauren finds the garbage disposal is wired directly to a circuit with no switch or visible disconnect. The client asks if this is acceptable. What is the appropriate response? A. Direct wiring is allowed if the unit is new. B. Disposal units can be wired without switches. C. Lack of a disconnect is a safety violation. D. It only matters if the unit is malfunctioning. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per NEC 422.31 B. Appliances like disposals must have a means of disconnection. G. A wall switch or accessible plug. Lack of a switch presents a shock hazard during maintenance. Inspectors must identify such violations to protect occupant safety. Remodeling does not waive code compliance requirements. Question 11. In a modern context of structural renovations, Inspector Wallace evaluates a home where several first-floor walls have been removed. The homeowner claims the renovation was done by friend and no permits were pulled. Upon inspection, Wallace notices signs of floor sagging and unsupported beams in the basement directly beneath the removed walls. What is the most appropriate recommendation for Wallace to include in his report? A. Suggest monitoring the area over the next few months. B. Note that cosmetic repairs may be necessary. C. Advise immediate evaluation by qualified structural engineer. D. Recommend reinforcing the flooring with plywood. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Removal of load-bearing walls without proper engineering support is a serious structural concern. Floor sagging and unsupported beams suggest compromised integrity. ASHI requires inspectors to report conditions that significantly affect structural performance. RR.1 mandates that load paths must be maintained. A structural engineer must assess this immediately. Monitoring is not a substitute for professional evaluation. Question 12. By evaluating a two-story home during a summer inspection, Inspector Tanya notes excessive heat in the attic and minor ceiling stains below. The attic has no visible soffit or ridge vents, and the bathroom exhaust fan vents directly into the attic. What is the most significant concern here? A. Energy loss through ceiling insulation. B. Inefficient cooling of the living area. C. Risk of mold and moisture damage in the attic. D. Heat affecting the roof shingles. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Lack of proper attic ventilation and exhaust fan venting into the attic introduces excessive moisture, creating an ideal environment for mold growth and wood rot. ERE Section M.1 requires exhaust systems to discharge outdoors. ASHI obligates the inspector to report inadequate ventilation. Ceiling stains may indicate condensation-related damage, not leaks. This is the health and building integrity risk. Question 13. Contrary to popular belief, cracks in a brick veneer wall over a garage arch are not always cosmetic. Inspector Rena observes stair-step cracks extending upward from a garage door corner and separation between the veneer and window casing. The foundation appears stable, but the client asks if it's just normal settling. What should Rena conclude in her report? A. Cracks are typical in all homes and not concerning. B. Recommend repointing the mortar only. C. Advise evaluation for structural shifting or lintel failure. D. Suggest repainting the area to conceal the defect. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Stair-step cracks and veneer separation may suggest underlying structural issues like lintel failure or shifting loads. Even without foundation issues, veneer cracking can reflect stress. ASHI requires noting visible defects that may indicate structural concerns, concealing the damage or labeling it normal without evaluation may breach professional responsibility. Question 14. From a practical standpoint, Inspector Omar evaluates a masonry fireplace with white powdery residue on the exterior chimney and damaged mortar joints. The homeowner claims it's just dust from the bricks, but what does the residue most likely indicate, and what action should Omar recommend? A. Efflorescence due to water penetration. Recommend chimney inspection. B. Mold growth. Recommend pressure washing. C. Paint flaking. Suggest repainting the chimney. D. Normal discoloration with no further action required. Answer. Correct answer. A. An explanation. Efflorescence is salt residue caused by water penetrating masonry and evaporating. It signals poor flashing, failing mortar, or compromised caps. NFPA 211 and ERR require chimneys to resist water infiltration. The inspector should advise a full chimney evaluation. Brushing off the residue or repainting without addressing the root cause is negligent. Question 15. In response to a client request for infrared imaging, Inspector Grace explains she does not offer thermographic inspection but performs a visual-only inspection. The client insists on checking wall moisture. What is the best course of action for Grace? A. Use a flashlight and guess based on visible signs. B. Offer to rent an camera to accommodate the client. C. Clarify limitations and refer to a specialized thermographer. D. Decline the inspection entirely. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. ASHI requires inspectors to state the scope and limitations of their services clearly. If infrared or moisture detection tools aren't part of her standard practice, Grace must explain that and refer the client to someone with that expertise. Providing misleading information or guessing could create liability issues. Documentation is key to avoiding disputes. Question 16. During the process of inspecting a finished basement, Inspector Naomi notes a damp odor, discoloration at baseboards, and minor drywall bubbling. The client mentions a previous water intrusion that was professionally dried. Naomi has no moisture meter. What should she report? A. Confirm the issue has been resolved. B. Report visible signs and recommend further investigation. C. Advise repainting and rechecking in few months. D. Assume it's normal basement humidity. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Even without a moisture meter, visible and olfactory signs like staining, bubbling, and odor warrant reporting. ASHI SOP directs inspectors to document observed conditions and recommend further evaluation where appropriate. Ignoring signs of past or ongoing moisture intrusion exposes clients to mold and health risks. It's inappropriate to confirm the issue is resolved without verification. Question 17. Across different scenarios, homes built before 1960 often lack grounded outlets. Inspector Allen finds multiple ungrounded three-prong outlets during an inspection of a 1958 home. What should Allen communicate in his report? A. The outlets meet code for the time of construction and need no comment. B. Ungrounded three-prong outlets should be labeled and or upgraded for safety. C. Recommend full rewiring of the house. D. No action is required unless devices malfunction. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Installing three-prong receptacles without proper grounding is misleading and unsafe. NEC 406.4D requires ungrounded three-prong outlets to GFCI protected and labeled. A no equipment ground. Inspector should recommend corrections for safety and code compliance. Full rewiring may not be necessary, but upgrading outlet safety is. Question 18. A critical examination of an in-ground pool reveals that there is no pool barrier or self-latching gate around the backyard. The homeowner says their area doesn't enforce pool safety laws. What is the appropriate inspector response? A. Ignore it since it's not enforced locally. B. Report the lack of barrier as significant safety hazard. C. Recommend signage instead of fencing. D. Suggest adding pool cover only. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Regardless of enforcement, inspectors must report life safety issues. The IRE Appendix G and many state laws require barriers and self-latching gates to prevent child drownings. A lack of a pool barrier is a major hazard. Pool covers are supplementary. Failing to report such risks could result in liability for the inspector in case of an incident. Question 19. Through careful analysis of his own reports, Inspector Malik realizes he has been using templated language that may understate serious defects. For example, writing, "It appears serviceable even when he suspects major repair is needed." What is the primary ethical issue involved? A. Time-saving practices are encouraged in report writing. B. Clients should research the defects themselves. C. Understating issues can mislead clients and breach ethical standards. D. Using templates is prohibited by inspection standards. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. ASHI Code of Ethics requires inspectors to act in the best interest of the client. Using vague or misleading language in the report can breach professional duty and reduce the client's ability to make informed decisions. While templates are allowed, they must be accurate and adjusted per finding. Misrepresentation, even passively, is liability and ethics violation. Question 20. In light of recent developments, Inspector George inspects a high-efficiency condensing furnace with PVC exhaust piping sloped slightly upward and secured with unapproved fasteners. What should George include in his report? A. This is standard practice for high-efficiency systems. B. Report improper slope and recommend correction. C. Suggest annual furnace cleaning only. D. No issues since the system is operating. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Condensate in high-efficiency furnaces must drain properly. Exhaust pipes should slope downward toward the furnace per manufacturer guidelines and ERM.3. Improper slope can lead to moisture buildup, backdraft, or corrosion. Improper fasteners can compromise pipe integrity. Operation alone does not confirm safe installation. Question 21. While it is true that some older homes do not have sump pumps, Inspector Bernard notices standing water in a basement corner and a sump pit without a functioning pump. The seller claims it's never been a problem even during storms. What is the best recommendation for Bernard to make in his report? A. Suggest installing a backup battery system. B. Recommend replacing the sump pump and verifying functionality. C. Advise sealing the foundation wall. D. State that repairs are not necessary without current water. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. A non-functional sump pump is a defect when water presence is evident. According to ASHI-SOP, inspectors must report issues that affect habitability or structure. Functionality testing of sump systems is critical where moisture signs exist, even if the seller claims no history. Standing water is a risk for mold, structural damage, and equipment failure. Question 22. To illustrate this point, Inspector Sophia observes a detached garage with an electrical subpanel. The neutral and ground wires are bonded in the subpanel, and there's no separate ground rod. What should she note in the inspection report? A. The setup is acceptable for detached structures. B. Neutral and ground must be bonded in all panels. C. Improper bonding and lack of grounding at subpanel are safety concerns. D. The lack of ground rod is fine if it's connected to the main panel. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. NEC 250.32 requires a separate grounding electrode at detached buildings and prohibits bonding neutral and ground in subpanels. Improper bonding can allow current to flow through unintended paths, creating shock and fire hazards. This is a significant defect that must be corrected by a licensed electrician. Even if functioning, it's unsafe. Question 23. Examining the consequences of improper siding installation, Inspector Jamie notices vinyl siding terminating below grade and visible signs of moisture damage near the base of the wall. The seller argues that's how it was originally installed. What is the most critical concern Jamie should report? A. Trapping of termites behind the siding. B. Fire spread between walls. C. Wicking of moisture leading to structural decay. D. Aesthetic inconsistency with local standards. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Siding should not extend below grade because it traps moisture and wicks water into the sheathing and framing, potentially causing rot, mold, or insect infestation. This violates standard installation practice. Vinyl Siding Institute RR.11. The inspector must report improper siding placement as it directly affects durability and safety. Question 24. When analyzing a newly installed dishwasher, Inspector Carla notices that the drain hose lacks a high loop or air gap. The client says the plumber said it wasn't necessary. What should Carla include in the report? A. The installation is acceptable without high loop. B. Recommend monitoring for backup only during heavy use. C. Report missing high loop or air gap as sanitation concern. D. Suggest adding garbage disposal to fix the issue. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Dishwasher drain lines must have a high loop or air gap to prevent backflow of contaminated water into the appliance. CICP.2 UPKey 807.4. This is a cross-connection hazard. Carla must report it as a health risk. Manufacturer installation instructions often require a high loop regardless of local code. Question 25. The correlation between wood soil contact and pest issues is often overlooked. Inspector Richard observes deck posts embedded directly into soil with no footing or visible barrier. What should he report? A. This is typical and not considered a defect. B. Recommend pest inspection due to conducive conditions. C. Suggest cosmetic repair to cover the wood base. D. Report the condition only if pests are currently observed. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Wood in contact with soil creates conditions conducive to termites and wood decay. Even if no pests are observed, inspectors should report it as a risk factor. ASHI-SOP Section 4. The ER.1 also prohibits untreated wood in direct contact with the ground. This setup requires evaluation and correction to prevent future infestations. Question 26. Based on the information gathered, Inspector Lauren observes that several windows in a newly renovated home show condensation between panes. The client asks if they are defective. What should Lauren explain? A. This is normal for all double-pane windows. B. It indicates seal failure and the windows may need replacement. C. It only occurs due to seasonal humidity and is reversible. D. Recommend wiping the inner glass regularly. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Condensation between panes in insulated glass units indicates a failed seal. This allows moisture infiltration and reduces thermal efficiency. According to Certdemy and window manufacturer standards, seal failure is a defect. Inspectors must report it clearly and recommend evaluation or replacement, especially for newly installed windows. Question 27. A key distinction between a home inspector's observations and contractor responsibilities is often misunderstood. Inspector Avery fails to note an obvious sagging roof and later learns the buyer is suing for damages. What is Avery most likely to be liable for? A. Breach of pre-inspection agreement. B. Unlicensed roof repair. C. Professional negligence for failure to disclose visible defect. D. Misrepresentation of contract price. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Inspectors can be held liable for professional negligence if they fail to report observable significant defects that fall within the scope of inspection. Even if the defect existed before or after the inspection, failure to disclose is a breach of duty. Courts often consider this omission of material fact, particularly under ASHI Code of Ethics and local liability statutes. Question 20. During the process of inspecting a sloped property, Inspector Felix notes a 6-foot-tall retaining wall leaning outward with soil pressure cracks and no visible weep holes. What should Felix include in the report? A. No issues if the wall hasn't moved in recent years. B. Suggest cosmetic patching of cracks. C. Recommend engineering evaluation due to potential failure. D. Report the lean only if it exceeds 45 degrees. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Leaning, cracking, and missing weep holes indicate structural stress in a retaining wall. Retaining walls over 4 feet typically require engineering per hour. 0.4. Inspector must report this as a serious concern. Failure to address could lead to collapse. Aesthetics are irrelevant compared to safety and low bearing stability. Question 29. The underlying principle of home inspection is objectivity. Inspector Alina is offered a $300 bonus by a real estate agent if she downplays issues on a distressed property. What is the most ethical and professional course of action for Alina? A. Accept the bonus and note the arrangement in the report. B. Decline the offer and report the agent to the licensing board. C. Accept the offer but continue to write an honest report. D. Politely decline and maintain full objectivity in the inspection. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. ASHI and INTERNACHI codes of ethics prohibit accepting financial incentives from any party that may influence the report. The inspector must remain unbiased and loyal to the client. Accepting a bribe or incentive, even if reporting honestly, compromises professional credibility and may result in disciplinary action or license loss. Question 30. From a historical standpoint, homes with enclosed utility rooms often lack combustion air. Inspector Nair evaluates a gas furnace and water heater in a sealed interior closet with no visible vents. What should she conclude? A. The setup meets code for older homes. B. Lack of combustion air is a safety concern and should be reported. C. It's acceptable if the room is cool and dry. D. Only electric appliances require venting air. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Gas appliances require sufficient combustion air to operate safely and prevent backdrafting or stagey. Sealed utility rooms with no vents are a fire and co-hazard. Inspectors must report this as a serious concern. Old construction doesn't exempt from safety standards. The presence of functioning appliances does not imply compliance.